Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the Worldwide Technology Championship at Mayakoba. That's a mouthful. We're just going to call it the Mayakoba going forward. This is the preview and pick show all in one. I'm going to give you all the analysis that you are accustomed to. Going to dive into even some more different views on the guys that we're looking at. I've got some of my favorite bets for you. Got DraftKings pricing now. We got everything. And it is a really good field comparative to what we've been kind of seeing over the last few tournaments. So excited about the Mayakoba. And with that said, let's do this. Okay, so first and foremost, let's just do a quick recap of the Bermuda Championship. Lucas Herbert coming out of nowhere, really had no recent form whatsoever. But no shocker. That's what the Bermuda, I had some money on some other guys that we'll talk about. But, good for him. Got his first win on tour. He did have, I'm trying to go off the back of my memory. But he did have some good form probably a few months back. But if you looked at like his recent past 4 or 5 tournaments, there was nothing to write home about. But ultimately, it came down just to the guys at the end that were going to make some putts that were up there on the top of the leaderboard. And, he handled the weather conditions, right? We had crazy weather on Thursday and even on Sunday. We had some, stop play. But when, the weather was nice, it was bombers away. And what I mean by that is, I was on my preview show and everything I was talking about on the Bermuda was factoring in wind. And typically what we saw at that course was when you had the wind, you needed the guys that could just keep it in play, get it on the green, and make putts. Had to be really good putters. But one thing that I've definitely noted going forward is that if it is calm days, which you saw on like the Friday and Saturday, the guys that can just bomb it, could drive those par fours, like a Taylor Pendrith, speaking of, we can pull him up, the Canadian, they could really take advantage. And I believe what he shot, I think it was a 61, either Friday or Saturday. But I was kind of pulling for the Canadian, I'm not going to lie. I was really not pulling for Lucas. But where my money sat, as some of you guys already know, was on Danny Lee. I think I actually got him somewhere around 130 to 1. There was probably better odds out there, but I put it in, of course, before the tournament started. But Danny Lee, and I'm probably not a lot of other analyst guys were talking about Danny Lee, and it's not like I spent a ton of time on him, but he was in my top 15. He's sneakily it popped up at some very difficult courses, but really it's always been courses. On Bermuda, he's had really good showings actually at the Mayakoba. So note to self that his course history here has been really good. I mentioned the Valspar. I believe it was like Honda, like the Florida swing. He really showed up, and like I said, it was kind of, of course, a flyer. But, if you watched any of the tournament and see how he's hitting the driver, it's kind of funny. A little bit of Bryson DeChambeau-esque. Man, I mean, the guy at times is just swinging out of his heels. So wasn't a shocker, but really just came down at the very end. He had that string at a double. He had a double bogey, a bogey, and a bogey that kind of threw him, and then he had a couple birdies, but just got him out of contention. Was leading on Sunday, of course, at 15 under, and then that little bogey streak he went on, and then just couldn't do enough. So that was a bit of a bummer. It would have been a nice little payday, but just excited. Hopefully you guys put him in your DFS side. Definitely would have differentiated yourselves. I don't think a whole lot of people are playing Danny Lee. All right. And then I put this up, even though we don't have stroke gain data for these kind of the island swing, if you want to call it, there is still some information we can look at. And the one thing I was just looking at here, what I thought was interesting, of course, Lucas Herbert who won, and he had Patrick Reed. Also, I should mention him, and I will. But if you look at Lucas, we don't have putting strokes gained against the field, but I guarantee that he had again, like I think I mentioned at the previous, which I'm blanking now. Like I said, all these tournaments have been just running together, but that he probably gained 3 or 4 or 5 strokes on the field with the putter. I know on Sunday what bit I did get to watch. He drained some 20, 30 footers, and that's of course what differentiated him. What I wanted to point out is Patrick Reed, and I was not on him. His form's been, as I mentioned, since the Farmers, hasn't been great. He's had little spikes here and there, but nothing Patrick Reed related, not worth paying the 9,800 or whatever it was. But he actually switched his driver. I think he said Saturday morning he put a new driver or an older driver in that he was more comfortable with. And what was happening in his first 2 rounds is, he was getting a little wayward, getting into that thick bush or OB, and then having to take like a double. That's really why he lost the tournament. And he put the new driver in, and then you can see Saturday, Sunday. So I only bring that up because, something to keep in the back of your mind for Mayakoba. Now, not that I'm all over him for OHL or for Mayakoba, but we saw what he did, under these conditions. So if the weather also is blowing over in Mexico by Cancun, then might be something we want to look at. And then of course there's Danny Lee there. Patrick Rogers, I think, is really interesting play for upcoming. He's just been nipping to maybe break through for his first win. Then you got Scott Stallings, who went out on Sunday. And I didn't play a ton period of DFS or showdown with these guys. But man, if you had a showdown team, you wanted to start the morning guys, and he got to start morning and on the back side. So he got through the tough side, which I think 4 or 5 under he shot on the back and posted his lowest round ever, a 62. And he's done that a couple times this year. So someone to keep in mind, if you're playing a Sunday showdown and Scott Stallings is in there recently for some odd reason on Sundays, he has went low. So, okay, I think that's enough about what I wanted to recap for the Butterfield. Let's go talk about why we are here, and that is for the Mayakoba, and we are still on the Island Swing. I believe this is our last tournament, I think, and then we head to like the Houston Open or something like that off the top of my head. But of course, as I already mentioned, it's in the Riviera Maya. Just, if you've been to Cancun, it's like 45 minutes away. Of course, if you've ever been to Riviera Maya, it's right there too. They are playing the course of the El Camaleon golf course at Mayakoba, hence the name Mayakoba. And this has had so many sponsors. I believe like it was like Infineon before, but I always knew it as OHL. And even in Fantasy National, it comes up under OHL. That's probably was the one sponsor for the longest. The course opened back in 2005. It is a Greg Norman design. And the tournament, as far as I know, has been held here since 2012. It is a par 71 and just a hair over 7,000 yards, so very similar to what we just saw at the Bermuda. Of course, the Bermuda is the shortest course on the PGA Tour schedule. As far as I know, and I'm pretty sure this is correct, the fairways, rough, and greens are all past Palom. I always state that because I don't get the actual superintendent fact sheets for these island courses. But everything I could find is a C short past Palom. Same with the fairways are rough, of course. This is a very close to kind of like a Bermuda grass, and it is used on these coastal courses because the salt water will kill the grass if it's anything other than this kind of past Palom. From a player field, we're almost, it's identical to what we just saw at the Bermuda. You have 132 players. It's going to be cut down to ties to top 65. Historical cut line here over the tournament. Lowest I've seen was 2 under, up to +4, but most of the times it's at even. So just dead even is where the cut line usually falls. And then from a winning scores, the field's gotten a little better than, in past. Last year had a pretty decent field. Of course, Victor Hovland won, which I believe was his second victory, right? He won the Puerto Rico Open and then won this, shot 20 under. Brendan Todd, when he had his back-to-back wins, Bermuda and Mayakoba shot 20 under. And then Matt Kuchar, if I remember correctly, I think he did kind of the same thing, like came out in this like island swing and had a couple of victories right off the bat and then didn't do anything after that. So, if you kind of looked at those Todd and Kuchar, you think, okay, guys that are very accurate off the tee, not long, good putters. But really what I see is the guys that can take advantage, especially with the field that we have here. You got, I don't know how many top of the 25, but you've got the Finaus and Justin Thomas. You got Patrick Reed who'll fall in there. You got Terrell Hatton. You got some really good players compared to what we've been seeing. And so that said, I think, I'm going to be leaning towards ball strikers, and that's what I got in my notes here. We'll go over. I don't have actual green size average, but it is, if I remember correctly, a little larger than average. The fairways are somewhat generous, but you got a lot of sand that line the fairways, and then you got this kind of water channels that goes around the whole course. So you can definitely get in some water. I think I got 7 to 10 water holes that will come into water. Of course, being past Palom, and again with the wind possibilities, they got to keep the green slower. So everything I can see is running the stent meter at a 10, and all that means, if you've ever seen a stent meter, it's this little metal ramp that you roll the ball down, and depending on how far it rolls out, that gives you, so 10 feet would be here. So pretty slow. We would term it as Velcro. Of course defense. I already mentioned the water, the sand. Then you got like this dense mangrove bushes. Also, that if you get into, forget it. You're not getting out of there. And then you've got these things they call a C note or a cavern, which I believe is only on one hole, but it's right in the middle of the fairway. I think it's 16, but I could be incorrect on that. And then again, I mentioned the wind. We got to keep an eye on the weather. I've not checked it yet. It's so far out. This is a Monday, but we will keep an eye on it. And that might sway how we build teams and who we pick when they go off and that kind of stuff. But too early to go on that. And then again, I just mentioned ball strikers just show up, either winning or top 10 for the past few years. Reference, of course, Victor Hovland. Griot has done well here last couple. Aaron Wise. Harris English is in the field. And then Adam Long is one of my favorite plays. Now, I'll mention it on the bet side, but that guy, and I mentioned, I don't think he was in, he was not in the field for the Bermuda because I would have played him there. But this guy, whatever it is, has had a really good success on this course and on courses like this. What else? Oh, and I just was saying, again, if the winds kick up, to look at like the Brendan Todds and the Matt Kuchars. Then just some other notes I just put down. Brendan Steele had an albatross here on hole number 13 in round one. And then also Russell Knox has had a really good past course history. I think he led last year in round one, led the field, I think 6 under. So again, and I think Knox was a person I picked for Bermuda. So again, it kind of just falls under his type of course. All right, so we want to take a quick look at the El Camaleon. If you've never seen this tournament, and of course, this is where I tell you, go to YouTube, check out the round one, round two, check out the highlights from the previous year. So I believe it comes from 2021 or 2020. And, but you can see this course, as I mentioned, this water that just runs along a lot of these holes. You got a lot of, that mangroves, you got sand that follow all these holes. So this is probably the best illustration of what this typically looks like, but there are wide, generous fairways. And this course, the last time they played here, it was really wet, soft. So they were just throwing darts. I mean, the ball was just wherever landed on the green, that is where it sat. Same with the fairways. So I don't know I haven't checked into what the weather conditions have been there, but typically this time of the year, but especially summer, is in Cancun area, they just get rain for like 3 months straight. So if you know Mexico well, it is very wet in the summertime. They're very different than what it's like here in the Americas, but they should be kind of getting out of the wet season right now. So I'll be interested to see, but that's something to think about. But like I said, there's forgiving greens, forgiving fairways, shouldn't be an issue on that side. Now, if you're going wayward, you're going to get in some big trouble. And here's another view. I feel like kind of a travel tourist or something like that, or a travel agent, but just again, showing you a little more of this par 3 here, very large green. I believe this is 15, and even though it's short and looks simple, but so much wind affects this shot, it actually is a lot trickier than it looks. And then just again, another view showing you again of all the water that kind of runs around the course. There's that C note or cavern cave right in the middle of the fairway. If you go in there, forget about it. You're not getting out. It goes all the way under for a while. And then just a quick another overhead view. And really all this is just makes me jealous that I'm not in Cancun right now. Okay, so move along. Let's check out the scorecard. And this is going to look a little goofy because some of the holes changed a little bit. I believe this was due, I could be incorrect, but this was due to they had the hurricanes, whatever hit there, and they had to redo some holes. So some of the yardage just changed, but this is all correct. I checked it, verified it, and I'll put the official scorecard up. But you can kind of see, it looks like the front nine is definitely where there's a lot of, opportunities. Maybe not the first hole, but definitely, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, some of the easier holes on the course. And then, of course, you get on the back and you've got, number 11, a short par 4. And in short, you've got 3 par 5s, all very gettable. You got 4 par 3s, some, short ones, not like the last course. The teeth of this course is in the par 4. So I believe there's, number 16 is the second handicap hole. You've got a 515, and then you've got number 14, which is 452. So that's the 2 toughest holes. But there are, I think 4 par 4s that fall into like the 450-ish range. So that's where the course gets its distance. But like I said, it's not, par fives you can definitely attack. Par threes are not the defense of this course. It's the longer par fours. And then just to show you, like I said, there's the official scorecard. Everything that you see up here is exactly matched. So I felt good about this was what released and what they'll be playing. So no big changes from a yardage standpoint. And then so simply, I always do this on how do you win here? What is my model from a larger perspective going to look like? I'm going with the number one thing is ball striking. Again, just when I go through and just look at the leaderboard, because I can't do a ton of stroke gain analysis, but just seeing the guys that have showed up over and over. The number one thing that I think to be successful here is going to be ball strikers. I want guys that can gain off the tee, to take advantage. First off, you got those long par fours, but the other is take advantage of those par fives. But you got to be hitting the fairway, so I'm going to put in that kind of mix for off the tee. I think approach is right next, which really all this combined is good ball strikers, but it just emphasizes putting is still crucial here. The guys, just like every tournament, the guys that are draining the 10 footers, the 15, 20 footers, over and over the guys that win the tournament. So you can have the best ball strikers out there. They're not making putts. It's not going to happen. So that's always the trickiest part, right? Of betting on golf or DFS or anything is who's going to have that, Scott Stallings on Sunday, 62, just go out and putt lights off, or even Lucas Herbert, who, I know he had to gain 4 or 5 strokes, if not more, with the putter to win that tournament. So we're going to look at some different views of putting for this field that I haven't showed before, that just going to break them down 0 to 5, 5 to 10 feet, 10 to 15 feet, just a different way. We'll do that for proximity to pins too, just to give you another look of, of information you might want to use to help you pick your lineups. And the proximity of the pins in a larger model, for a bit there, I was going with longer ones because of the longer par fours, but there's just not enough of them. So when I really did kind of break down the analysis, it's going to be, the guys that hit the wedges really well. So nothing really different than what we saw at Bermuda. There's just so many holes that you're going to be hitting, 100 or less, or just, in between 100 and 150. I mentioned the par fours. There's quite a few of them, 450 to 500. You got 3 very gettable par fives, so we're looking at stroke gain on that. And then stroke gain, of course, on the 450 to 500. I didn't state that. Around the green, still going to show in sand saves. And then last but not least, 20 under is about what they're going to shoot here to win. I think the weather holds up and we don't have the wind like we just saw at Bermuda. I think these guys could torch it to 25 under. Wouldn't shock me. All right, with that said, of course, I made you a large model, and this is looking over the past 12 rounds. No filters turned on. You've got the salary sitting here, and you can see the 12 rounds. And then I can show you the weighting for this. So for ball striking, I heavily weighted at 20%. 10% off the tee, 10% fairways gained, 10% on approach. Putting I didn't put as much on. These, they're not difficult greens. There's not a lot of slope or undulation. So hence, like Agrio could do something here. Aaron Wise, who's gotten better with the putter, someone else that I like. Look at Victor Hovland, who won. He out-putted, I believe it was Adam Long, who was nipping on his nose, and even Tom Hoagie in the previous tournament. Or last year. Sand saves at 5, scrambling is in there. Those proxies to the pins at 5, par gaining on par 5s. The 450 to 500 par 4s, which I think is going to be really the course defense here. And then I got birdies tuned up to 15% because we're going to need guys that can go low. You plug that in, you hit my rank, and funny enough, CT Pan pops up number 1. Your bronze medal winner of the Olympics here this past summer. Taylor Gooch, who was on my screensaver, I was thinking Taylor Gooch before I saw any of this, which is kind of funny because I think of Taylor Gooch, and I've said this before, when you look at where he's done well, it's at very tough tracks. So like a Wells Fargo at Quail Hollow, or like the Genesis at Riviera. But everything just shows up that his skill set, and he's been playing well, could do very well here. We already talked about Aaron Wise and Hovland, Mito Pierre. The guy's been ball striking the shit out of the ball. He's just been terrible on putting, as you can see right here. If he just, has a decent putter, he could be your winner right there. Davis Riley shows up quite a bit. I need to dive a little more into that, but just side note, I'll go into more of that when I get to the guys, when I pick my value plays. Of course, JT, a great, when I think of someone from 150 down, the guy on proximity to pin is just elite. It's just the driver. As you see here, fairways gained is not so good. Henrik Norlander is pretty interesting to me. Adam Schenk, who's been putting really well, is pretty interesting. Been nipping on the heels. You can see Griot at the very bottom of this, but this is top 20 out of 130 guys. So, if you built your lineups out of just this right here, you probably do pretty well, at least from a model perspective. Then, usually I always like to show you what the past history is at the course from a stroke game perspective. I can't do that, but what I can do is show you who's had the most birdies here over the last 12 rounds, and some of these guys are going to have less. So, Ricky Fowler actually pops up number one in under 10 rounds. That means somewhere he missed a cut. But, if you're just thinking from a birdie perspective, funny enough, Adam Long comes up second. He's only got 8 rounds, and I already talked about him. Danny Lee, my guy from the Bermuda that missed, at 6,900, pretty good pricing for him. It comes up there. Matt Kuchar, of course, past winner. Pat Perez has had a lot of good success here, and I was on and off with Pat Perez recently, so I had to really think about him. It's just same thing. He just needs a putter. Great iron player. Just if he goes off of that putter, he could do it. And we already talked about Hovland, Wise, Ortiz. It is Mexico, right? So typically, what I've noticed is with Ortiz and Abraham Ansford, who are in the field, when they go play in the native land, man, they want to do really well. And I'm going back to like WGC Mexico events at Chapultepec, and they've done really well when they've done there. And I think it's a lot of pride. If you think about it with Hideki Matsuyama when he went to the Zozo Cup, it could go either way with that, but it's something to think about. Brian Gay pops up down here, which is kind of interesting for the most birdies. CT Pan shows up again. Dylan Fratelli, for whatever reason, I think he's only played here once, but he pops up in quite a bit. So he must have had a pretty decent showing. Anyways, that gives you some ideas from, just from a birdie perspective. And then if you want to know who the top ball strikers are on this field, because I think that is the main stroking category that we need to look at. A lot of these guys, when we repeat, Kyle Stanley is, amazing enough. If Kyle Stanley, and I've said this before, but it would be a bad bet always to throw $5-10 because the guy is just elite tee to green. He's just the worst putter. So you can look at this field. He's 123rd out of 132 guys. So when I say he is just a horrific putter, he is horrific. But it's crazy how good he is with the ball striking. Trying to see anybody else that we haven't talked about. Will Z, awesome ball striker. He hasn't been producing, and I'm kind of off him right now until I see something different. Joseph Bramlett, had a great Corn Ferry run at the end, but just terrible putter too. I think he falls, 125th. So he's literally actually worse somehow than Kyle Stanley, which that's small effort. And then you got Tom Hoagie, like I mentioned, who almost won this thing last year. So give you some more names to look at there. And then comp courses, this hasn't changed a whole lot from the Bermuda, of course, because, we're right back pretty much on the same thing, same distance, island course, Bermuda past Palam. I think they're very similar from a green type. I did add the American Express is one that I will plug in when I'm doing comparable courses on the guys that, I'm advising or predicting should do well, I guess. But, of course, we're going to look at the Mayakoba, the RSM at Sea Island. You got Harbor Town, RBC, of course, where we just played the Bermuda, Corrales, Puerto Rico, the Sony. You got all those we're going to look at. And then so I wouldn't go a ton off of what you see here. So what you're looking at here is I plugged in par 71, less than 7,200 yards. That gives you a couple of these courses, but it also pulls in a lot of other courses, a lot of TPC courses. But if you want to know guys who've done pretty well on short courses, that's pretty much the simplest way to put it. A par 71 short course. These are the guys. And funny enough, Griot's number one. JT. Oh, and this is over the last 12 tournament or the last 3 tournaments they played at these short courses. Victor Hovland, Justin Rose. That's an interesting play, right? He's been so on and off, but usually, he's going to have one pop round. He's going to have that putter just going. The rest of it's pretty spooky. Henrik Stenson, we haven't seen him in a bit, but I told you guys, Usually he plays in the Bermuda. He lives in the Bahamas. Um, he likes to play these island swing courses. So, Henrik Stenson in his heyday would be freaking awesome. Henrik Stenson now, that would be a tough go. But, if he gets that 3-wood working again and, gets the irons dialed, it's really been the putter is what's been, where's his putting stats? So funny enough, okay, well, this is showing up. So that's going to be pulling old data. So don't look at where his putting stats is here. But anyways, that's why Henrik Stenson is getting pulled up. It's older data. So don't go a whole lot of this. Okay, with that said, let's go jumping into Fantasy National. Let's do some analysis. And then we come back, I'll do my favorite bets for you guys and wrap this thing up. Okay, so jumping over into Fantasy National, this is where I do all the research. This is where I tell you if you want to do your own research on golf, and if you're not doing it yet, or if you're using spreadsheets and whatever you're doing, you need to try out Fantasy National. It'll make your life so much easier. And hey, honestly, you probably won't have to listen to me a whole lot. But with that said, I've got 17 guys that I've identified. Typically, I pick top 15. You're getting 17 guys that I like. Do with that what you may. What we're looking at here is kind of a nice little dashboard. It's a smaller mini model. And if you want to look at that model, it's ball striking approach off the tee, fairways gained, birdies. That is what we're looking at, all weighted at 20%. And I've got no filters turned on over here. So we're just looking at recent form, last 12 rounds. And so for some of these guys, it's going to be the CJ Cup and the Zozo. Some of these guys, you're going to have the Shriners and some of the Island Swing. But all these guys have played within the last couple months. We'll put it that way, especially the FedEx Cup. So we're out the bat, and this is looking at by price. I'm not going to go through every guy. The guys in green are the guys that I'm interested in, but you can also look. That's why I got this up, so you can look at the other guys that I'm not picking. And I'll give you a little reasons why, but we're going to spend the time on the guys that I'm looking at. Also over here, you got birdies gained over the last 12 rounds they played. And I'm not sure, I'm putting this out there. I'm not sure how well this is working because typically, I don't know if it's the tournaments they play, but typically some of these guys would be way higher. But a lot of them, like, you get a Patrick Reed who's way up here. So that is why I put in down here birdies ranked. And so just look at this bottom one. It kind of does the same thing. It's still last 12 rounds. Then, of course, anyways, you got recent results and tournament history. Okay. So first guy, most expensive guy, of course. And I didn't even see what I'm guessing he's like 10 to 1 or 12 to 1. I didn't see his odds. But it's not where I'd want him. But, Justin Thomas, I mentioned, has played here twice. He played here last year at a T12. Some of these guys are here for vacation, man. I mean, you got to think about it. I mean, they might be getting paid. Either way, they're going to get paid. It's an amazing place, of course, to go vacation. So you got some of that to deal with. But the short of it is, what makes me nervous is two things. And I don't have the putting, but we're going to go look at putting. His putter still has been horrific. Everything else is elite. And then, the fairways gained. I'm not super concerned with that, but that's also part of it. So that's, in short, he's also the most expensive guy. There's other guys that I like a little more, get a little more value. And so if I had to pick between him and Victor Hovland, I'm going to save $300. I'm going to go with Victor. Not too far off of of a player from, what you're getting. I mean, Victor, maybe has been putting a little better, I think, than Justin Thomas of recent. But, both very elite, tee to green. Off the tee, I give Victor the edge, and then I give Justin, the irons within 125 would go to him, would go to JT. Also, what JT does really well is hitting a 3-iron or like his 5-wood or a 3-wood to, on par fives. I mean, for me, I think he's one of the best at the 225 to 250 yard approach. To get on those to give himself the eagle chances. So not that Victor Hovland's bad. I just think JT is just elite at that. So give him the nod for that. Anyway, so Victor Hovland, of course, he's your past champion. Typically, I also don't jump on that so much. But he is everything that I'd be looking for in a player. You go click on Vic. Of course, putting is not his strong suit, but, has been getting better. Same with his short game. You can see around the green. I think he said very eloquently that his short game shit, but that was a little while ago. He's chipped in a ton, over. I mean, you can see here the short game picked up here kind of midsummer. Um, you see his last good putting outing was actually at the CJ Cup, which is crazy. But he lost on approach, which is kind of interesting. If we look where Victor has had, this is what's interesting with Victor. That his two wins came on, two of my comparable courses. So, course here last year, and then his first win, just like Tony Finau at the Puerto Rico Open. Um, also he's had some success on Bermuda. If you look at Valspar, Wyndham, trying to see where else he's had some success. I think Greenbrier, funny enough, I think that's where Danny Lee has his only win, and that's a comparable course as in it is, I believe, off the top of my head. Well, let's just go verify. I believe it's a par 71. It's bent grass. It's a par 70, but it's less. It's a short track, is the simplest way to put it. And so that was, I think, also one of the reasons why I like Danny Lee, if you're curious. All right, but anyways, long story short, I like Victor Hovland. I don't think there's a whole lot I got to sell you on to roster Victor, and you can see his projected ownership right now is pretty high. Right now, the highest is actually Abraham Answer. He's kind of had a little bit of a mixed bag. I think everybody was kind of shocked when he had a really nice FedEx Cup there, and then came out and missed the cut at Shriners, but then came back with a T14 at the CJ Cup. Um, he has played here quite a bit, right? Of course, from the native land, a ninth, an eighth, a 12th. He's an amazing ball striker. The putter, as all right, can go up and down. You can see his birdie rate over his last is not where I like it, but this is probably a little more course form, and knowing that overall, his putter can get super hot, and you can see in the positive, but he's had some on and off with the putter here, over. We see what fits him. So WGC St. Jude, right, his only win. TPC Southwind, that's a short track. I think that is Bermuda, yeah. So again, I think it's just over 7,200 yards. I don't have the yardage in front of me, but when it, just so you guys know, but it is a par 70 Bermuda. I think it's also, you could use it as a comparable. RBC Heritage, which is a comparable course, the Amex. If you look at where he's done his damage, it's mostly on shorter tracks. So just on that alone, I like Abraham Answer. And also he does what I like. Tony Finau, there's, you look at, he's had, he's played here. He's had a T7, a cut, a T16, a cut, a T8. And then, is he going to go back to a cut? I didn't like what I saw at the CJ Cup. I mean, again, right, he won the Northern Trust, had a great FedEx Cup playoffs, and he was making putts. I was like, whoa, here goes Tony Finau breakout, and he could definitely go out and win this thing. I'm not saying he can't. Big Tony Finau fan. I don't know many people who are not, but for that price tag and everything I saw recently, I would not. And again, this is from a perspective of large GPP DFS. I should have probably said that in the beginning. I'll play Tony Finau for sure. I'll plug him in on a showdown. I don't like him for Thursdays, but I like him for like Friday, Saturday. But the guy can get you some eagles. He can get streaky hot. So from a showdown play, yes. From the large big tournament game, the 100K game we got this weekend, I'll probably pass on Tony Finau. Terrell Hatton. Honestly, Terrell, this is, his kind of track. But his form has just not been where I want it. He's never played here before, and that doesn't mean nothing to me. If I go click on Terrell just real quick. Also, his putter has just not been that great recently. But, really the last decent, I mean, he won, I think, the Arnold Palmer. I don't think that was the first tournament. That was Daniel Berger won. I think was it RBC or was it? It doesn't matter. But I do remember what he won at API. It was a little bit of a shock because that doesn't. He had a good showing at Palmetto, but it's just been a rough. It was a rough 2021 season for him, and so but it is the Terrell Hatton that I know back in 2020, I'd be all over it. But I can't do it for this. Billy Horschel just gets a little wayward, but could definitely get streaky hot. Also a good showdown play. Brooks Koepka, I'm just gonna say no. It's not a major. I don't know where Brooks is at. He just hasn't, you know, It's just not where I would. I wouldn't even play him in showdown. I just have right now no interest. Is the short of it. That's my own personal opinion. Again, the guy, can go off, but it's just in regular tournaments. It's pretty rare. The waste management, right? I actually had a bet on him and hit him, but he was like 40 to 1. And if Bruce Koepka, I don't know what his odds here. It isn't 40 to 1. I know that. Yeah, I'll bet him if he's 40 to 1. But Scotty Scheffler, I think everybody was waiting after, especially after the Ryder Cup, for him to have that breakout, and I just haven't seen it. He missed the cut at the Shriners, T38. Again, another guy that I like to play in showdown, but not in a large GPP play. The guy that I fall to at 9,600, which is kind of crazy, in this field that I'm shocked, to be honest, that DFS is probably the craziest pricing I've seen for Aaron Wise. Now, maybe it's because I've been seeing this for so long, but Aaron Wise, especially in a pretty decent field, I could see him around 8,000, but I understand it. I mean, he's been playing great, so he's got great recent form. He was second here last year. I don't know where Tom Hoge ended up, if he was third or whatever, but it was him and Hoge coming down to the end, and then Victor Hovland on number 18. I think it was 19 under. Had to make I think a 10-footer to win it, and it was like a walk-off win on the 18th without going to playoffs. So I mean, I get it, man. There's a lot of reasons, but $9,600. So that's all I'm saying is I get it. If you look at that price tag and say I cannot play Aaron Wise for that price tag, but I'm going to build some teams with him, because everything I see for this course, back to like the Griots, the Hovlands, Aaron Wise. If Corey Connors was here, I'd probably play him too. It'd be like the best ball strikers with crappy putters, and just hope their putters go off. Let's go jump on Mr. Aaron Wise real quick. Nothing, as I said, you're going to see a lot of bad putters, but I think these greens are, like I said, pretty simple. Nothing that I'm stressed about. So, of course, the Mayakoba, he had a second. The Bermuda, he's had a third. OHL, again, there's a 10th. So when you see a OHL, just so you know, that's Mayakoba. It was just the old sponsor. Byron Nelson, what else? RSM, AT&T Pro-Am at Pebble Beach. So there's definitely some correlation. But yeah, plain and simple, I like Aaron Wise. I already mentioned Patrick Reed. I would check. We'll check his ownership, and if it's less than 10%, or something like Reddit's showing right now, I think that could be a sneaky play, because first thing, people don't like playing Patrick Reed a whole lot, and his form's been junk. But I did mention, I told you guys that he changed his driver on Saturday, came out and had a really good Saturday. I think he shot 5 or 6 under on Sunday in pretty rough conditions. So if the wind blows and it looks like it's going to be, if it looks like it's going to be some weather, I think Patrick Reed would be a good play. Of course, Shane Lowry, I'm not picking him, but is always a great play in the wind. Of course, if you remember the Open that he won, crazy conditions. But, even under, I put the all-weather team together. Even with that, Scheffler is also really good in the wind. Of course, Joaquin Niemann. I could go through. There's quite a few guys. Tringali, I've sat on this one for a bit, because I think Tringali is going to get a win here shortly. A T22, a T11, a T2. Hasn't had the greatest course history here, but there just wasn't enough. I guess the short of it is with Cameron Tringali for me is he's put himself into contention. Sorry about that. On Sundays, and then I just watch him fall apart on Sundays, and so I've seen it too many times. But again, projected ownership is low. I think he's a good play. Fitzpatrick, I don't. You could say a little bit. Maybe the draw he had, the Bermuda, didn't help him out. But he just hasn't shown me enough for almost $9,000. But again, he is a good ball striker and can be a really good putter. So someone else that I might think of course, Garcia, elite. He's a perfect example of one of the better ball strikers on tour. Just struggles with putter, but for 8,700, I mean, you could argue that he might be a better play than Aaron Wise. So you kind of put those guys in and out. Keegan Bradley falls right into that. Awesome ball striker, terrible putter. I believe Matt McNeely had a pretty good show on here. Yeah, T12. Plays good short courses, likes POA. Um, but 8,500 again, maybe some of the pricing I'm struggling with. I already talked about Ricky Fowler, had that T3, then, did not follow it up at the Zozo. But, had a second place here in 2018. This could be maybe where Ricky has his breakout win. It's definitely a possibility. Funny enough, the guy that I'm falling to, and was kind of my, I think of him as my broke back pick, Patty Kazire, right? So Russ Henley is the same way. I don't get them right, but I really know the courses that they should do well at, and this is one. Short. You need to be a good ball striker, great with irons. And funny enough, I don't know what's going on with Russ Henley, but his putting has fallen off. There was a time on Bermuda greens. Let me just go click. Well, we're going to click on him anyways. I want to go see this. So yeah, you can see on Bermuda greens, man, the guy would just go lights out, but his putting lately has just been horrific. So if that changes, if he can get back the way he used to putt, he could definitely win this tournament. If I go click, I mean, that's some older stuff here, but that's Bermuda, the Sony's Bermuda. I think the John Deere, I mentioned that even Danny Lee had a good round there, but short TPC track, could be applicable. I think why Russ Henley just always sticks in my brain because I was so shocked. Not this CJ Cup and Zozo, but the previous where he came out and had a third and a fourth in a elite top 80 best players in the field, and just was sticking. So maybe I got to get that out of my brain. But the guy's got some skills. He just has to put it together. It's been a while since 2017 since the guys won a tournament. RSM, so like I said, RSM, RBC, the Wyndham, a bunch of short tracks where you just need to dial those irons in, and that's what he can do. You can see right still fifth on approach. Also, he showed up. What was it the PGA or the U.S. Open? Now I'm forgetting. Where he had a chance to win it. So it definitely wasn't the Open. It was the U.S. Open. I think he fell apart on Sunday, if I remember correctly now. Anyways, Mito Pierre, I already talked about him. Kind of the same thing, man. Just an amazing ball striker. What is Joaquin Niemann on here? Sorry. I know he's in the field. So he's at 7,800. So that's kind of interesting, but Joaquin's just not been striking the ball as well. Where I was going with that is I think of those two very similar players. So for a little bit cheaper, you can get Joaquin Niemann. That's kind of a shocker that you're paying more for Mito Piera, the Chilean brothers. But the guy's just been, playing better golf, just hasn't been making putts. Not a whole lot that we're going to see on Mito that you're not going to see here. But you can see over the last 12 rounds, he's number one in ball striking, number one on approach, number one off the tee. And then if I had the putting rank in here, he would be, I don't want to say last, but it's not good. And we're going to go look at the putting stuff. Don't worry. I will go over that with you guys so you know. Bezadenhout, was hoping for a little more to him at Bermuda. That was a little shocking. That did not work out. Justin Rose, like I said, he's always a good showdown play. You can see his last good showing was at the Wyndham short track. We talked about Joaquin Niemann, just has not been in great form at all. The Hofster, had that amazing Texas swing, but it's been a while since we've seen him contend. So, again, I like Charlie Hoffman for a showdown play. Seamus Power, he's been playing. I, picked him last week or for the Bermuda. I think he had one bad day, and I don't remember which day it is now. But he did, kind of funny enough, I think he did well in the windy days and didn't do as well on the days that were calm. So figure that out. So again, maybe if it's windy, he's a good play. But let me go click on Seamus real quick. So you see, good putter on Bermuda. Again, that's what we're going to reference because there's no stats for past Palm. We don't get the stroke gain data, but you see, good putter. It's been green, all the way across. Of course, he had the win at the Barbasol. He had the 21st, 12th at the Bermuda we just saw. But like I said, even past history, he's done well at Corrales, RBC, John Deere. the Amex, the Bermuda. Like this is his course that he can strike on. So it definitely like Seamus Power. Gary Woodland also could be a real sneaky play, right? He had a glimmer showing at the CJ Cup, the 3M Open. So it's like either, also probably not a bad bet. Maybe a top 10. I didn't see his odds, but like a top 5, top 10 bet, because it's either he strikes or he's missing a cut. But just not for me. Carlos Ortiz, this is not because of his recent form, right? He had that withdrawal at the Zozo, which, I'm sure made some people, I did not roster him at all for that. But this is more course history. I already mentioned, of course, the guys that, going back to their native homeland. You can see, this isn't bad. It's been the putter that's been not good, and his birdies is just he's not making putts. So we go click on him. We can go see where Carlos has had some success. And right, I think, as I mentioned, we are going to the Houston Open where he does have his one victory. Yep, right there. But second at the OHL, Sanderson Farms, a little bit tougher track. So Houston Open again, Sanderson Farms again, but OHL. So where he shows up is either tough tracks or he likes the OHL. He likes Mayakoba. So we're going to go with it. Like I said, it's more course history. And like I said, his ball striking is not as good. It's just the putter has been bad. Lucas Herbert, no, sorry. I wasn't on you last week. I'm not jumping on that train now. Could it happen that he's in pretty decent recent form? But no, funny enough, I'll go to Griot, who has not been in very good form. I mean, he had a T18 at the CJ Cup, and I believe a lot of that, if I remember correct, he went out on Sunday and shot like a 61 or 62 or something like. And that was it. Like, he just had a crazy one day. But the guy, if you know Griot, you can see projected ownership's already high. I mean, he's had, of course, I already mentioned, really good form here. T10, a 9th, a 15th. His worst is a 41st. He just likes this course, but he's a ball striker extraordinaire that is a terrible putter. I mean, you could argue literally that why not play Kyle Stanley? But, typically Griot can get, I don't want to say hot with the putter, but can string some putts along. We'll put it that way. I think I mentioned before, he, in my brain, had one of I think it was in 2021, he was the number one record for holding birdie consecutive streaks. And he had, I think, 6 or 7 birdies in a row. Kind of led that for a while. You can see, funny enough, does good in the win. So that could come in handy. I already talked about the putter. You can just see it. Last time he, funny enough, gained, he didn't suit that hot with everything else. So he did do well tee to green, but gained with the putter. I've never understood that, how guys do that. But that does happen quite a bit. Of course, he won the Safeway. It was his first, I think it was his first tournament on tour, if I remember right. Had a second at the RBC, which is a good comparable. Puerto Rico, great comparable. Puerto Rico, Corrales, OHL, OHL, this is his course, man. This is where he does well. So I got to play him. Ian Poulter wasn't actually going to be a pick of mine, but the more I kind of, he was like we'll call him the extra. And the reason why is that, everything that Ian Poulter does, and people don't like to play him, a lot like Patrick Reed, really just kind of fits this course for me. And he had that T18, he had a T10 at WGC. So he's, of course, the Ryder Cup showed up with the putter as he always does. But I just think he could be an interesting play. I guarantee you his ownership. So you can see on Bermuda is where he gains the most. He's not super long, but he's pretty freaking accurate. He had a good showing at the Charles Schwab, which that's Colonial. That's a pretty short par 70. That's probably right around 7,200 yards. That is bent. That was like his most recent best finish, I guess, best way to put it. What else has he done well? So he's done well in Chapultepec, Puerto Rico. Again, some of these are going to be old because he's been around a while, of course. The Workday, is that the one in Florida? No, that's at Murfield. St. Jude, that's a while ago. RBC. Anyways, it's been a while since he, of course, has won or really contended since the Charles Schwab. But I don't know. For whatever reason, I gotta look at his. I didn't look at his betting odds. He just, I guess if you call it that gut feel, that Danny Lee kind of pick, or Cameron Champ, or Lucas Glover. I've had those calls, right, and just missed on Danny Lee. So I don't know. He's just, for whatever reason, he's ringing to me. HV3, I think, is a great play. I didn't pick him, but I will definitely probably sprinkle him in. Um, and definitely I play him all day long. I mean, his best showing is at RBC Heritage. There's no, I think it was just I already had these other guys. So, I look at Jonathan Vegas and HV3 as almost identical players. So really, you could flip flop either one. They both do. You can see it's almost identical from ball striking to approach off the tee. Like, maybe you give the edge to Vegas off the tee. I would give the putting edge to HV3. They're both not good putters, but fairways gained is almost identical. Like everything, man, they are. So either one, Johnny Vegas or HV3. Let's just go. We'll click on HV3 real quick. I just want to see where he's done his best. So I mentioned RBC. I knew that. Okay, so he's done well here at Mayakoba. I didn't even look at that. So John Deere, Wyndham. You know what? Let's go look at Johnny Vegas. I might make my switch. I might put in, because I think they're identical. I really do. I was thinking of Johnny Vegas because he's just had that nice little streak with his putter. He's had a nice little run. Of course, he won the back-to-back Canadian Opens that haven't been there forever. But so the Amex as his only win, which is a great comparable course too, I think. Puerto Rico, the John Deere. I mean, honestly, like I said, I think it's a coin flip between the two. But you know what? Throw a roster together with both of them wouldn't be a bad idea if you get down to 7,000. Patrick Rogers is in here. I mentioned this earlier on. I just think he is just ready. He's had good showings here. He looked, good at the Bermuda, and a T6 at the Safeway, Fortinet. Had to go back to the Corn Ferry. I think he was just outside the top 125. Got his card, he's back. He's been playing good golf. Let's go take a look at some of his comparables. Also a pretty decent putter over his career. It's been the irons, but you can see he's been popping the irons a little better. Been really solid off the tee. The putter's been working. Let's go take a look. So RSM, he's had a second. A John Deere. So those are good comparables. A while ago, Bermuda, that was just recent. The Barbasol, Safeway. It's kind of OHL, he's had a 10th. An RSM, he had a 10th. Corrales, he had 11th. Charles Schwab, OHL. So, yeah, I like Patrick Rogers. We already talked about Vegas, and I already clicked on him too. So we already know what he did. Those three, I mean, that's a nice little, at the 7,400 range. I kind of like Adam Hadwin's been playing better golf. He's just not my cup of tea. I just noticed I don't play him a lot. He's not a very good ball striker. He's good around the greens, good putter, but has been playing a little better. But, I would rather take Patrick Rogers over Hadwin right now. Brian Harman, just, I don't know what's going on with his game, but no thank you. I'll just leave it at that. Russell Knox has had a great pedigree here, right? A T2, a third, a ninth, a 23rd. He's just done really well at this track. Funny enough, this is showing a ton of birdies. I think that's not working out, but it says 7th. Comes up 10th in the model. I think I picked Knox for the last. He ended up 12th, but he was in my top 15 last week. But yeah, RBC Heritage, OHL, the Honda's Bermuda, OHL, Honda, Charles Schwab, St. Jude, OHL. I mean, his best finishes have been here. So maybe slow, flat greens is where Knox putts. CT Pan, I told you he came up number 1 in my large model. Of course, we know what he did in the Olympics, beating out that, 7-guy playoff. Beat out some really big names, man. But, had a good show at the Fortinet, Sanderson Farms. Not too shabby at the Wyndham. Ball striking the shit out of it. Let's go click on CT Pan, and I believe, right, he won at RBC. Yeah, so that was his first and only win. I believe that came down to like Kuchar, Shane Lowry. I remember DJ was leading that. I always remember this. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's a pretty tight track. You got to keep it in play. You got to make putts. So same thing. The Wyndham, the Honda, Charles Schwab, RSM, the Masters. He was my sneaky play for the Masters in 2020. OHL, RSM, OHL. So again, a lot of the comparable courses. Everything looks good. I think I put a bet on him, but I don't remember now, to be honest. But if he's close to 100 to 1, I would bet him, but I feel like he's not going to be even that high odds. Streelman could be a decent play here. Kuchar, we already, decent form. Of course, won here before. Just has just not done enough. I think the last. I try to remember when I saw Kuchar and he actually did well, and I think it wasn't a team event. It was. I don't think it's going to show up here. Maybe it was the Dell match play. Yeah, it's been a while. Of course, Taylor Penrith could, I think he's a good showdown play. Boy, you're getting quite a bit of discount. I think he was in a 9,000 range last for the Bermuda. So that's kind of interesting. Patty Perez, I told you guys, he actually has a win here, a 6th and 8th. I think this withdrawal, this cut, the T44, but he had some good showing. I think is a good play at 7,200. Of course, Brendan Todd, past winner, but just has not been playing well. Henrik Stenson, you can just see this. I mean, but that's also a little hard, right? That's the Open, the U.S. Open, but the Charles Schwab, right? I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen Henrik Stenson anything. And then I think my last two guys is Adam Schenk and Norlander, and somewhat similar. Schenk's a better putter. Let's talk about Adam Schenk first. So that's the best course history here, but he's a different player right now. I think he's been playing, really good golf. Been waiting for him to kind of get his win. Good putter. Which you can see here. Has done well with the putter. Best showing was at Shriners, but the John Deere, he's had a couple good showings. Puerto Rico, the Amex, Puerto Rico, RSM. So again, shorter tracks. And then Henrik Norlander, also not the greatest course history, but a T4, a T5, a T18. He's been ball striking the crap out of it too, and just the putter, and you can see that over here, not so good. The Farmers recently came in second, which I forgot about that. RSM is where he's at his next at Sea Island. RSM, the Amex, the Sony, Wyndham. I'm just calling out Bermuda short courses. Sony. The Palmetto wasn't too long ago. That was also Bermuda. So, anyways, that gives you some guys that I am interested in. Do with that what you may. And then I'll summarize it real quick again for you. So we got Victor Hovland, Abraham Ancer, Aaron Wise, Taylor Gooch, Russ Henley, Mito Pereira, Seamus Power, Carlos Ortiz, Emiliano Grillo, Ian Poulter, Patrick Rogers, Johnny Vegas, or HV3. I swear you could either one, or put them together. Russell Knox, CT Pan, Adam Schenk, Henrik Norlander, and I didn't do Adam Long. My sneaky play. Well, I don't know how sneaky it's going to be, but I wanted to play him last week. I was shocked he didn't play the Bermuda, but of course, amazing tournament history here. I've seen this go south, though. I've seen where guys have had awesome course history, and then it does. But the guy, from a putting perspective, does well. And if you look at what's most interesting is his only win was at the Amex, which is a really good comparable course. Again, the OHLs, we already talked about. Corrales. The Island Swing, man, the guy showed up. Greenbrier, shorter. Charles Schwab. The Colonial. Actually had that 22nd at the Players here this past. Again, in Bermuda, short course, a lot of water. I don't know what it is, but when you got to be accurate, even though this doesn't tell you that, the guy's done well. So Adam Long will be definitely a guy that I'll be plugging in at 7,000. I did tell you I was going to show you a couple of different views just real quick. So what this is, I haven't shown this before, but you can look at this field and just look at their putting stats from different distances. So funny enough, over the last 12 rounds, and I'm not going to put pass Palom on because we're not going to get any stroke data for that. I could do Bermuda, but I don't know. I'm just going to leave it with no green type. You know what? I'll put Bermuda on. We'll look at it both ways. How about that? All right. So funny enough, over the last 3 tournaments, if you want to know who overall has just been the best putter, just putting, Nate Lashley, which I haven't got to below 7,000, but for my value plays, he will probably be it because I told you guys a lot. I seen him play. I got to watch him when he won the Rocket Mortgage. The guy hit irons that was just unbelievable. He's usually pretty accurate off the tee. Good iron player. His short game is around the green is not solid, but the putter must be pretty well. So overall, he's been the best putter out of this whole field. If we're just looking at putter, if you look at Adam Long, he's number 4. You got Noren, Bezadenhout, Shanks showing up there. Kang has been sneakily, having one of those one-day pops. Good first-round leader pick, actually, depending on what time he tees off. You got Answer, my Hank Loboda, which I think I'm finally quitting. He's down to 6,200, though. It would make total sense that I would quit Loboda and he would win or show up like a top 10. Let's go. I'm not so worried about 3-putt avoidance. And I'm not worried about that. But 5 to 10 feet, just so you can see, Brian Gay, Adam Long, Adam Shank, Tom Hoagie, Nate Lashley. So guys that make the 5 to 10. This is probably, for me, is the most interesting is the 10 to 15 and the 15 to 20 footers. Because this is about where guys with their irons, typically, PGA pros, especially on this course, you're going to be sticking it within 10 to 20 feet. That's your birdie opportunities. The guys that make those putts, you can say 5 to 10, but I even think the 10 to 15 is what's even more crucial. But Stefan Jaeger, Kang, Aaron Wise, Schwartzel, Todd, Shank, Lowry, just to give you Victor Hovland, Doc Redman. That's kind of shocking, to be honest. Overall, he's 75th, but funny enough, when he's 10 to 15, he makes some putts from that distance because he'd be actually a really good play. Someone to think about. We're going to have to look at Doc Redman for a value play because, when I think of a great ball striker, at least he was, but terrible putter. Of course, even he came in second behind Lashley at the Rocket Mortgage. All right, anyways, and then if we look at 15 to 20 feet, who's the best putter? Funny enough, Victor Hovland, who is the past winner here. You got Party Marty Laird, where that guy's just sneaky, man. You just never know when Party Marty Laird is going to pop up, but he's at 6,500. Will Z, which that's kind of amazing because he's a horrific putter at times. I'm curious for Scotty Scheffler. I want to look at Scheffler because I've always said that Scotty Scheffler terrifies me right here, 0 to 5 feet. But funny enough, the further you get him out, the better I think he is. So 25 feet plus, he's ranked 30th, 15 to 20, but amazing enough, 0 to 5 feet, 110th. And that's just looking at the last 3 tournaments he's played in. So it is true. The guy is just brutal, or not brutal, but just scares the hell out of me with those 3 or 4 footers. I'll click through just so you can see. Tringali, 20 to 25 feet. You got Lowry, Villegas, Duncan, Merritt, Answer, List. That's interesting. And then 25 feet out, Nate Lashley, funny enough, pops in Justin Rose, Taylor Grillo. That's a bit shocking. McNeely, Detry. So again, just so you know, it's over the last 12 rounds of golf they played, last 3 tournaments, from a putting perspective. And then I thought the last one I'll look at is proximity to the pin. So of course, this is approach coming in. Again, no filters on. And if we just overall, number 1 over the last 12 rounds. Oh, let me see here. Let me do that way. I'm sorry. Number 1, my rank over the last 12 rounds would be Mito, Piero, which, but again, I say he's been horrific with the putter. Justin Thomas, Tom Hoagie, Norlander, Lowry, Henley. And then the ones I think we should look at, we'll look at these last 3 right here. I think are the most important for this course. Funny enough, Bezadenhout has been really good. Mito, Villegas, King, Palmer, Will Z, Vegas. So this is 75 to 100 yards in. I'm shocked that Justin Thomas is not number 1 for that. So, okay. So he's 69th from there, but it's the 125 that he's showing up. So right here. So funny enough, Brendan Todd, again, somehow is still throwing darts from 125. JT, Victor Hovland, Knox, Seamus. There's the Gooch, Putnam, Straka. That's interesting. Griot. I'd expect a lot of these guys. I expect, but I did not expect to see Sub Straka up there. All right, 150 to 175, and then we'll get out of here. We got JT, Robert Diaz, Miguelzoli, Lowry. I think this has got to be a local sponsor invite. This guy here. I don't know him. Let's go click on him. I'll just be dead honest. I don't know who this guy is. Yeah, he's played in one tournament. Okay. Anyways, I think that's enough. It just gives you some other views that I'm not sure before. Let's go wrap this thing up and give you my favorite bets. Okay, so some of my favorite bets. You might get some odds better, some worse. This is all DraftKings. Again, I mentioned I use DraftKings just because, of course, for DFS, I use it. And the money just goes back and forth between the casino site or the sportsbook site, whatever you want to call it. Number one, Hudson Swafford. The guy does well. I think what he's won Corrales and does well on island courses and has been, I'm shocked he's 250 to 1. I'm just going to put it that way. He's one of my top favorite bets from the long odds standpoint. So Hudson Swafford, I'm going to put some shackles on him. Gooch, you can get him like 40 to 1 in some other places, but on DraftKings, he's 35 to 1. I was a little shocked by that. It's not the best odds for Taylor Gooch, but from a low odds, I mean, I like him. He was one of the first guys I was kind of thinking of for this tournament. So I got to bet him. I bet him at 35 to 1. Griot, I have seen him 70 to 1, but I got him 65 to 1. Might even be able to get him 80 to 1 other places, but Emiliano Griot. Hendrik Norlander, 141. So some of my longer shots I like. Definitely like that. I got a bet on him. And then Graham McDowell, right? I mean, if you look at Graham, and I didn't go into Graham McDowell's, but you saw what he did at Bermuda. The guy, and I mentioned this before, like Luke Donald, mentioned him also. They are like the perfect guys for these short island tracks. They just do well there. So 200 to 1 for him to win. And look at, he's sponsored by Worldwide Tech. So how could you lose? And last but not least, of course, Adam Long, 130 to 1. I think I think that's the best. I think DraftKings had him at the best. I also saw him 125 to 1. But, you know, Adam Long, of course, is a guy that I'm betting. Of course, could go south, but, you know, he's done well, of course, at this course and on other kind of the island swing tournaments. So I hope he can keep form on those. All right. That's it. With that said, let's wrap this thing up. Thank you guys so much for spending the time with me. I hope, again, that I'm providing information that is going to help you guys out from a betting, DFS, all that. So if you like what I do, click that like button. Share it with anybody else that you think might like it. If you've not subscribed, I am hanging on the balance to get to 1,000 subscribers and really need you guys. If you are checking me out for the first time, if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. I'm only doing 2 shows right now during this kind of island swing, but as soon as we get back to the States and the Houston Open, I do my 3 shows. They'll be more in depth. I do a little more on all the different areas between the preview show, my pick show, and then, of course, my value plays and ownership projections. So I put out a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday show. So, hey, click that subscribe, turn on your notifications, and you'll be aware. And then if you have any questions for me or anything you'd like to comment, hit me up on YouTube comments or follow me on Twitter, either or, at DFS Golf Guru. And mostly there, I just put out any information I get through the PGA Tour media to pass along to you guys. Okay, with that said, best of luck to us. I will put out a Before the Lock show on Wednesday. So that'll give you ownership projections, my top value plays, everything you need to know before you lock in those final lineups. And I will talk to you guys then. Take care.